Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and I'm here to review Peter Rabbit, which is a family film that came out last weekend, and I got to see it last Sunday. Took my mom for a double feature, and this was written and directed by Will Gluck, also helped written by Rob Lieber, and the cinematography was done by Peter Mackenzie Jr., composed by Dominic Lewis, and the basic cast, the actual human characters, Rose Byrne, Donald Gleason, Sam Neill pops up in it, and then vocal performances from James Corden, who plays Peter Rabbit, and then his sisters Margot Robbie, Elizabeth Debicki, and Daisy Ridley. Now, this film is based off of the children's book, and it's going with that more, hey, this was old traditional, and also used to be old and cutesy, and now let's make it a little modern and give it a little edge, make some obnoxious pop culture references. And the thing is, everything that I just described is exactly what Shrek is. And if any of you have watched my review of Shrek and Shrek 2, they're some of my favorite films of all time. Now the thing is, this ain't Shrek. So this film is very hit or miss, and some of the things I do really like about it, the visual effects are amazing. Honestly, these animals look fantastic, and they feel seamless in this world along with these human characters. And there are moments where I did laugh quite a bit, and there's some cool sequences, and I rather enjoyed them. But the biggest issue that I have with this film is, honestly, Peter Rabbit isn't very likable. And even when it gets to the point where it's like his redemption and stuff like that, it's just like I don't really feel for him or like him, honestly, very much. And James Corden does his thing, and he's funny at moments and enjoyable at moments, but then he's also really annoying and actually really big jerk. And honestly, throughout this film, I kind of felt bad for the young Mr. McGregor, the farmer played by Donald Gleason, who honestly you get a decent amount of setup to like why he's like this and what puts him in this situation, and why honestly he might be a little like angry with these animals and ruining everything that he's putting together. And honestly, he seems like he could be a really nice guy, and him and Rose Byrne have some nice chemistry, and honestly she's just really sweet in this film. She doesn't do a whole lot of heavy lifting, honestly, in this film. She does have some moments, but she does a good job. And Donald Gleason I actually really enjoyed in this film, honestly. And one thing that I do have to say, I was pretty disappointed with Sam Neill in this film. Pops up as the older Mr. McGregor, who's the farmer who runs the farm and the house at the beginning of the film. Honestly, you could barely understand what the hell he's saying, and they probably told him, it's like, act as crazy as possible, and his eyes look like they're bulging out of his head the whole entire time, and it's just like, took it a little too far. But like I said, James Corden is doing his thing, but honestly he gets really overshadowed by the three actresses who play his sisters. And Margot Robbie does a really nice job. She has a funny lisp throughout the film. Elizabeth Debicki does a nice job as well, and Daisy Ridley is one of my favorite parts of the film as the young sister the young sister, because they're all triplets, bouncing around like doing karate stuff. And honestly, some of the references, some of the writing in this, it's like they make a safe space joke. And if you've been paying attention, you've probably heard about all the criticism coming out about it dealing with people having allergies and stuff like that. Honestly, I didn't think it was that, like, it reinforced the fact that honestly Peter Rabbit wasn't very likable in this film, that he would stoop as low as trying to use somebody's allergy against them. And I've seen people being like, what about Mrs. Doubtfire? Well, honestly, he was being a jerk too, so whatever. And it is what it is. I've seen much worse things, and some people, I think a lot of people, and this being a kids movie, I guess the big thing is like they don't want little kids to be thinking like you should do that to people. But the whole entire moral of the story is like you shouldn't go to extremes to like hurt people because if you don't like them or they're being mean, because then you're just making matters worse. Which true, that is true, and that's the theme of this story. I just wish it would have been a little more likable character to follow through the story. It was well shot. It has a nice color palette to it. It looks like a nice film, and honestly, there are certain sequences where it actually used the old drawing style and did animation for that, and I thought that would have honestly been a cool thing if they actually made a film animated like that. And I've seen it a couple of times in certain films where they go into a more interesting animation style, which probably would have been more expensive and would have taken a lot more time, but honestly, I think it would have been cool. And the thing is, this is really going to get compared to Paddington, which the thing about Paddington is, yeah, it's in modern times, but it still has that sweet sensibility and uses timeless, like fish out of water and slapstick comedy. This goes for a lot of very topical, very pop culture jokes that honestly aren't going to hold up because at some point they're not going to be relevant anymore. And I think it relies too much on that and takes you out of the film when it does stuff like that. And the pacing, this film speeds along. It gets repetitive after a while, honestly. And then there's moments where it like montages and skates through a lot of stuff. And by the third act, it gets a little crazy and like there is some fun gags with the third act and how it escalates, but it really escalates. And by the end, this movie it's hit or miss. I guess it depends on who you are if this is a harmful film or not, but it's not really harmful. It's kind of cute and enjoyable. And honestly, I'd give Peter Rabbit a C plus.